Hi, it's Dawn from Dawn's Dirt. Dirt can mean gardening, dirt can mean animals, dirt can mean homesteading, dirt can mean politics, dirt can mean religion, dirt can mean anything we need it to mean. So excited for this opportunity today. Here with,
Mackenzie Warford.
okay, and what's your business name?
My business name is Papa's Farm.
I love it. And I'll tell you how I found you. I found you on my Instagram feed or Facebook feed. I can't remember which one, but you just popped up and I was like, whoa, that guy's got lettuce. He's got a hippie greenhouse and he's got a hydroponic operation. And so I was like, I need to get this guy on the show. And so you've got a personality and you're a bit crazy and I love it. And so welcome here today. So tell me what you got there. What do you got going on there?
So here at Papa's Farm, we grow year-round hydroponic romaine lettuce. It is our specialty. When we started it, we had a variety of crop where we done 16 different types, but we noticed the demand in our area for romaine lettuce on an island of 550,000 people, so about 500,000. There was a real demand for romaine lettuce, and the product that was coming into the island was unacceptable anyway. We have a 90% importation rate on consumed goods, so anything coming in is usually sprayed or comes from a part of the world that doesn't necessarily follow the same practices as Canada and even Newfoundland. So therefore, we said we got to do something a little different, and I'm happy to say that we grow year-round hydroponic lettuce, but we spray no herbicides and we spray no pesticides.
I love it. You know what? The reason I'm so drawn to you is because you've got like as soon as I saw your videos, I'm like, ooh, that's a really cool little hydroponic operation. And yeah, like I used to have just a little quick history of me. So I used to have a 36,000 square foot greenhouse and I did 20 acres of field crop. And oh, I love it. You're eating a little piece of lettuce right now. I love it, love it, love it. So I took actually an old pig barn of mine and I ripped half the roof off and I called it my hippie house. And I did a little different system than yours. I did one of those big ponds and I filled it with a liner and I put the water in, but it's the same thing. And so you've got the pipes and then you've got your water going through it. So can you tell me a little bit about how you're growing? Like what's your system like and how did you even get into this?
So this is called a nutrient film technique, NFT, and what it does is it allows 1 liter of water per minute to flow through the pipes. It is all governed and driven by a 1 horsepower pump, and we consume about 200 liters of water per week, given on the time of the year. Summer, we consume a little more due to evaporation. But what we have here is a custom-made 100 by 10-foot hydroponic system that is built using accessible materials on the island to be able to do so, and at a cost efficient rate as well. So the greenhouse itself is a homemade greenhouse as well, where we've used lumber instead of buying a prefab greenhouse. And going with lumber, we've been able to upgrade and make renovations to the greenhouse to make it more passive efficient against the heat and the cold, to be able to become sustainable in a feasible way. But we also have 2,400 feet of weeping tile under the ground in a custom aerated geothermal system slash earth battery, where we're using the natural heating and cooling effects of the ground to be able to regulate the temperature within the greenhouse as well. And like I said, our specialty is romaine lettuce, but there's no crop you can't grow in the leafy green variety in an NFT system. But if you're looking to get into something such as tomatoes or cucumbers, stuff with bigger root systems, you need a bigger mass for your water for your hydroponic system. So you'd be getting into Dutch buckets or deep water cultivation, where you allow the plant the opportunity to grow, because it's like an iceberg here in Newfoundland. We see lots of icebergs, and what you see on the tip is never compared to what you see on the bottom. And with a plant, if it's got a big foliage, I can guarantee it's got a big root system as well. So the benefit of hydroponics is that there is a hydroponic system for every crop. And some of the cool things that we have been doing on the R&D side as well is working with organic plant material or animal matter to be able to grow using hydroponics without using a man-made fertilizer. So we've used things such as seaweed tea, organic fish matter, hydroslate. We've been using things such as vinegar and lemon extract for acidic bases versus using a pH up or pH down. So there's a lot of unique things that you can do with hydroponics, and in order to make it a little more sustainable, there's a couple things that we can be doing as businesses and as well as government officials to try and get more research into the hydroponics field and make sure that Canadians are eating Canadian grown food, right? It's super simple. It's that simple.
And absolutely. Like, I couldn't agree with you more. So I was raised in the greenhouse industry. Like, my parents had a 26,000 square foot hydroponic cucumber operation. Me and my ex-husband, we had a 36,000 square foot greenhouse, and I grew cucumbers, tomatoes, and peppers hydroponically. And then I talked about my little lettuce house. And so that's why I'm so drawn to you, is your little lettuce house. Like, I just love it. And I've been saying for years that we, the people, like, we need to start taking our food system back into our own hands and growing our own and getting it local, and, supporting our small farmers and rubbing shoulders with the person that feeds you. And so that's, again, like, I'm so excited about this episode because you are doing that. You are providing lettuce to, Eastern Canada and the island there that you're on. And we need to see more of these small farmers pop up. And so, yeah, the hydroponics, people always kind of, poo-poo hydroponics a little bit, but as you were talking about your fertilizer that you use, plants need nutrients to grow, just like we need food to grow. And so you're just trial and erroring different, types of fertilizer and different types of feed. But, at the end of the day, fertilizer is fertilizer, nutrients is nutrients. And that's not the big issue. It's the herbicide, fungicide, and insecticide. That's where we want to kind of more go organic, right? And so you're just, I don't know. I can't sing your praises enough for doing what you're doing. So do you have a family? Like, I saw a little one running around there, and I know your wife booked this. So tell me a little bit about the family dynamics of this.
Well, that's how I started farming and got into farming, was because of the quality of the produce available in my hometown, and the thought of my kids growing up with the same quality of produce that's available to me was just unacceptable. Like, people have to realize on the island we have a certain quality of food that we get that we're accustomed to, and it's not because we deserve to be eating crap. It's because that's what we've been fed for the past decade, since we started cutting down on the amount of farming being done on the island and importing produce. Just because the agriculture industry is so big in other parts of the world, it becomes easier, right? So we've taken the easy path and we've forgot the old blue collar, getting your hands dirty and farming path. And what it's led to is very high prices of food and lack of quality because of long shipping routes and the cost of the food to get it. You're not going to buy quality grade A beef for an island if the cheaper alternative is a subpar standard. There's just is money. So for me, as a father of three girls, it becomes a more of a moral obligation than a just a farm or a business. It's the idea that my kids and your kids and everybody's kids in Newfoundland and Canada deserve high quality produce, and we have to take it one step at a time. So if it means ratifying the romaine lettuce on the island first, and then looking at something like strawberries and kicking out the imported 15 chemical sprayed strawberries we're getting, well, that's what we have to do, right? So we're taking one step at a time here at Papa's Farm to ensure that our family and your family and the next family enjoy access to high quality produce. And like I said, we get a bit of skepticism because we are only growing romaine lettuce right now, but there's 550,000 people, and I can sell half of them one head every 2 weeks. Even I've still been doing very well. All right, so we look at ourselves like McCain. McCain specializes in potatoes, and you got your French fries. Well, Papa's Farm, we specialize in romaine lettuce, and we want to be the best, and we want to be the most ethical and environmentally friendly farm we can be, because, like I said, we got kids, we got families. I want to grow up and grow old here in where I'm too, and I want my grandkids to do that as well. But they're not going to do it if they don't have access to affordable produce, right? Because I'm training them and raising them in a way that they know you have to eat healthy to be healthy. You are what you eat. We were preached that lesson as kids, and we've forgotten a very important lesson, right? So my kids understand that if you don't have a healthy, balanced diet, you're going to have a very hard future. And even with um, mental disabilities and stuff, anxiety and depression, it's all linked to your gut. So what we're putting in our guts is making us upset and tired, and so uh, it means everything, right? Access to high quality produce means everything. Whether you want it for yourself or you want it for your family. We want it for our families here. That's the big thing. We might not have gotten the best when we were growing up, but I'll do everything in my power to ensure my kids get the best.
I love it. That, like, exactly. You hit the nail on the head, and you hit the nail on the head as to why Dawn and Dawn's Dirt is doing what I'm doing now. If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, but if you teach a man a fish, he eats for a lifetime. And so I'm teaching people how to do hydroponics, how to do farming, how to do agriculture. And the whole reason for it, and the thing that drives me the most, is you hit the nail on the head. The kids, I grew up just like your kids are growing up
Yeah,
right now in the greenhouse.
yeah,
They
yeah.
go into the greenhouse and they're eating the lettuce and they're picking the things and they're helping you. I mean, they're understanding that, the lettuce comes first in some ways. You've got to make sure that the heat is on and the water's flowing and everything like that, and the business comes first. But you're working as a family. I saw your kids running around, and there is no better way for kids to grow up than, being in a greenhouse. And I can attest to that because I was that kid, and then my children were those kids, growing up, running around the greenhouse, helping pick and package, and eating food right off the plants like that. And you were talking about shipping and all those things. The nutrients that you would get out of your hydroponic lettuce is much higher because it's so much fresher than anything you'd be getting in shipped from somewhere. Because by the time it's shipped and it's gone to a warehouse with this big, massive food system we've got, it's picked, shipped to a warehouse, packaged, put in a truck, put in a cooler. Best case, you get it a week later. Worst case, it's 3 weeks later and it's almost dead. That
Mm,
lettuce is almost dead. And so
yeah.
your lettuce would still be alive. Because when you ship it, do you still have the root ball on it?
No, we separate the root ball, but when a customer places an order, they get it the next day. So a lot of the time they're sold out and people are begging for it. So it goes in and it's gone again, and it doesn't last on the shelves a week. It lasts on the shelves like 3 or 4 days because the alternative that is next to it is $8.99, and you can't eat half of it. And mine is there for $5, and you can eat the full bag of lettuce. Like people are just, it's a no brainer, right? And then support local is a huge, huge thing right now, and it's great to see. It should always be a thing. It shouldn't be because of something. It shouldn't be because of the tariffs that we support local. It should always be a thing, and it always should have been a thing. But it's raised some real awareness, right? So that's pennies from heaven right there. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going wrong, but for the farmers, they're being recognized finally for the efforts that they're putting forward into to making sustainable choices for the economy as well. It's not just about the food; it's about a circular economy and money, right? If you buy my produce, I go down to the store and I buy more produce off the farmers or I buy more material down at the hardware store off the local retailer. Like it's a circular economy, but when we're feeding into the industrial ag sector that comes out of the United States, we're not getting any of that money back, right? None of us. People don't
You
realize it.
honestly No, they don't. I know exactly. Or they say they support local, but they'll support local once and feel like they've got their little, I did it and I'm good. And so
Yeah,
now I did it one time, but
yeah.
that's not the thing that makes the world go round. And honestly, as you were speaking, I was getting goosebumps as to, exactly that. We need to invest back into our communities. We need to stop with the big government. I don't even care. I don't even care. Like, I'm in Alberta here, you're on the other side of the country. I don't even care what Ottawa's doing. Like, I care what I am doing, and I care what my local community is doing. I care what my neighbors are doing, and I care about our local food system. So I can't say that I don't care about, what you're doing there. I care about what you're doing for your community, right? And we need more local farmers. And I've been saying this for a long time. The key to our global food system, if you want to get into our global food system, the key to our global food system is actually local. So if we empower more people, more small farmers, more families like you to grow on a smaller scale or, even a little bit bigger scale and grow more local food, that is how we're going to feed the planet, really, because just that someone spends $1 with you, you spend it at the hardware store. Just like you said, it's just that's the way it is. And then your kids, because they're working with you in the greenhouse, they're going to the hardware store and they're meeting Mr. Joe Smith, who runs the hardware store. And then
Yeah.
Mr. Joe Smith takes his dollar and he spends it with, Susie down the road who grows apples or whatever she might grow, or, just different things. And that's what we need. Or spend it with the local doctor, or spend it with the local, maybe not a doctor. I'm not a super doctor person. I think food is our medicine, but
Yes.
you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it's called a circular economy, and I'm the president of the regional chamber of commerce here in my area as well, because along with farming, I want to make an impact into the economy because I'm in my early 30s. I have a young family. I want to spend the rest of my days here in where I grew up, and I want them to too. So when you invest in local business and you support local, that helps grow that local economy. So I'm all about a circular economy, whether it's agriculture or entertainment or tourism. We really need to make sure that we're spending money within our area to be able to increase the activity of those mom and pop shops and, like you said, the smaller scale, but also Canadians should be eating Canadian grown food. So if you do invest in Papa's Farm and at some point we do become a bit of a larger company on a more commercial scale, that doesn't change our ethics and our practices that have been instilled from day one from a business that was built from the ground up by somebody who truly cares. The practices that were built from somebody who believes this and has a passion this way will continue to rise on as where if we just go and start taking taxpayer dollars and investing them in foreign and large agricultural companies that are coming to Canada to take hold of us, um, the practices will not be the same as if they were Canadian farmers growing Canadian food, right? It's just a no-brainer. I'm going to grow my food the best way I can for you, the people, and I expect that you, the people, would do your businesses the best way you can. So when I call a contractor to pour concrete, I don't have to do it again.
You're hitting the nail. Do you remember the toilet paper wars of 2020? Are you worried about being prepared in an emergency? Are you tired of being a slave to the corporations we purchase from? It's time to take control. Become ungovernable. Take your food system into your own hands. Hi, I'm Dawn, a coach dedicated to helping you live like grandma used to. Self-reliant, resourceful, and prepared. Whether it's raising chickens, growing a garden, canning your own food, or even milking a cow, I'll teach you how to thrive and survive in the space you have, big or small. We can even potentially make some money off your homestead. Visit Dawn's Dirt today to book your free jumpstart call. Together, as a team, we can get you self-reliant and ungovernable. We, the people, have the power to take back control. Remember, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Let's build a better future and a community, one skill set at a time. Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head in so many levels. Like I just have to say, I love you. I love what you're doing. I love your family. I love your lettuce. I haven't even tasted your lettuce, but I can just because I grew lettuce myself, I can taste. I know what that tastes like. And let's talk for a second about the taste, the flavor. So I know when I grew tomatoes, my tomatoes, I had customers. I sold at farmers markets predominantly, and I had customers come up to me and they'd say, I don't think I like tomatoes, or I don't like tomatoes. And I would always say, is it taste or is it texture? Because if it was texture, I couldn't help them. But if it was taste, I could definitely help them. And they'd say, I think it's the taste. I don't like the taste of a tomato. And I said, well, try this little grape tomato. If you don't like that tomato, you honestly don't like tomatoes, because it's a totally different product. And the kids, that's the thing. Parents would come to me and they would say, my kids won't eat vegetables, but they'll eat your vegetables. And it's a night and day difference to the flavor. And so talk about your lettuce and the flavor of your lettuce compared to, that one in a big plastic bag that, is shipped on a truck from Mexico or California. What's the difference? Like, what's the flavor? Let's just describe that flavor difference to us. Even the crunch, probably.
My goodness gracious, if I could take you down a metabolical path now of experiencing eye-opening flavor of Papa's Farms lettuce. It's unbelievable, especially. And like you have to understand, we grow up. I lived in Alberta for a portion of my life as well, up in Rocky Mountain House. So I have family and friends up there, and I've traveled all across Canada, and I've experienced the quality of produce in different parts of Canada and noticed the differences. Um, but going from 16-day-old lettuce that's been sprayed in a bag with freshness lockers and sprayed in the field with pesticides and herbicides to something that you can eat any second. You don't even have to wash it. We still advise washing the produce. We don't really have to. Like, we eat it all the time, right? The taste is unbelievable. And I have people telling me all the time. And for a while, it's almost like, when you cook your own food for a bit, you're always like, taste this and tell me what you think, right? For a while, I was a bit skeptical on the taste, and I couldn't really get myself to say, this is really good. But after a while of hearing it from every single person who's ever tried it and saying this is the best lettuce I've ever tasted, it just can't be denied, even whether I can taste it or not, because you know what I mean? It's funny. Um, but yeah, it is the best lettuce apparently that anybody has ever tasted, and I think it has a lot to do with the effort that we put into it, right? Like we don't just grow the lettuce. We care for the lettuce. We harvest. We pick the yellow leaves off the lettuce. Like there's a certain amount of that care that goes into growing the lettuce, and right down to the music that we play in the greenhouse for the lettuce. Like we recognize the importance of sounds in nature that play key roles for the stomata gland in plants to open up and absorb uptake vital gases in the mornings and the evenings through the sound birds. And luckily enough, here in Newfoundland, we still have a lot of birds, and we haven't destroyed our land, so we still get a lot of birds. Well, we play uplifting classical music that we know hits the right notes that stimulates the stomata. We pump in fresh air that is from under the ground here, 8 feet under the ground. We pump that fresh air in there. There's no way you can tell me the minerals in the air of that ground is not coming and resonating in the plants, and they're not getting the gases that they need to photosynthesize. They get the sun, which is providing vitamin C, where there's a lot of people farming in hydroponic systems where they go completely controlled environment because they find it easier, but they don't recognize the fact that they're losing the core to growing, which is the sun, right? The sun is our power source. Like it heats the greenhouse during the summer, and it grows the plants during the summer and the winter. So um, all that factored in produces the best lettuce, right? We source the best fertilizer that's approved for hydroponics, and we use the least amount as possible, right? So like and then it's also airflow. Like our airflow affects the lettuce as well and gives it that extra crunch, right? Like and some people go as far as controlling the environment too much, where the plants don't get an opportunity to understand what fluctuations are or weather patterns. We put our plants through a bit of an aggressive life to encourage us healthy root growth and stock growth to give them that crunch that we're discussing that comes through, right? So there's so many things we do here at Papa Farm that all lead up to the final product, and the final product is, like I said, by others' testimony, is the best.
I believe it. You don't have to convince me. I've never even had your lettuce because I'm in Alberta, but you do not have to convince me. I saw it the first time and your Instagram, or Instagram or Facebook. Which one are you on, or both?
Facebook and YouTube.
Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so I'll tell you, you showed up on my Facebook, Instagram, like my Facebook feed, and I was like, wow, like it just popped up, and your little commercials or your little things and your little songs and your little dances, and you're full of personality, and I think
Yeah.
that's rubbing off on your produce as well. You're the whole package. You are charismatic, you are passionate, you are hardworking, because you can't be not hardworking and have a greenhouse, and you're just doing it for your family. And you're right. Like I was going to ask you about grow lights, because I know in the greenhouse industry, I didn't have grow lights, but I do know big guys that do have grow lights, and I respect them as farmers. Like they've helped me through many things in my years. You would be familiar probably with the Lacombe greenhouses if you spent some time in Alberta, but yeah, like they're good greenhouses, but they've got it down to such a science, and it's meant for big scale. And so that's the difference between small scale farm to table produce and bigger farmers, like bigger greenhouses, the difference is they're choosing their seed. And I don't fault them at all. I really don't fault them at all. They're choosing their seeds, their cucumber, tomato, and pepper seeds based on shelf life, because it's going from the greenhouse to the like packing facility, from the packing facility to a warehouse to the grocery store to the shelf, like the bigger system. Whereas when I chose my seed, I chose my seeds based on flavor. It didn't even necessarily matter to me how long those tomatoes would keep, because they were fresh when the customer got them. And so I'm sure same thing for you. You're choosing based on, flavor and different things like that. And then even in your growing methods, down to the music. I've heard of these things. I didn't personally do that myself, but you're giving your lettuce and your plants the best environment. I can even see, is that your lettuce moving a bit? Those are probably like fans moving your lettuce a bit. Is that because you've got like airflow fans? Yeah, and so that's going to keep your lettuce from going moldy, right? Like, or
Correct.
powdery
Yeah. And
mildew or
so
things like that.
So we do use supplemental lighting during the winter, but we only run the lights for about 4 to 5 hours during the longest hours of the winter. Like we still rely on the sunlight during the day, but in Newfoundland we only get a certain amount of sunlight. It gets dark at like 3:30 at the latest, at the darkest of the year. So we need supplemental lighting to be able to grow during the winter get a successful yield. But people, you look at light pollution, stuff like that. But our goal is to contain the light within the greenhouse. We're not losing a lot of light, even though it's plastic. It's all pointed at the plant canopy, and it only comes on for the same amount of daylight that it would be in the summer anyway. Plants need to sleep just like humans, so we're not obstructing anybody with the supplemental lighting, because of the because of how far technology has come now, LED lighting has become a very, very financially feasible way of lighting up a agricultural greenhouse. It's been The lighting industry for growing plants has been perfected in the cannabis industry, and they've been heavily funded in R&D, and it's just a simple conversion into agriculture, and these lighting for the cannabis industry, they work perfect. So but ours are actually specialized lights, about $450 a pop. They're specialized just for our romaine lettuce.
Exactly. And that's the part. See, this is why I'm doing the podcast too. It's these little things that people don't understand about farming. And I want to just educate people on food and farming and agriculture and what it takes. And you're right. Like when I had I called it my hippie house, and I didn't really have grow lights in there. I had a few grow lights, but not just to get the plants started, but the little plugs started before I put them in my pond.
Mm-hmm.
But, in the summertime, it was 6 weeks to a head of lettuce. And in the wintertime, it was 12 weeks to a head of lettuce. And the reason for that was the sunshine. We just didn't have the daylight hours. People always say to me, "Oh, I want to be able to grow year round." And I said, like, that's fine, but you need the supplemental lighting, or there's no point to it, really. Like, there's no point to growing in the wintertime, because you're going to be heating your greenhouse and it's going to take so much longer. And again, in agriculture, people need to understand it's a tic-tac-tician job. Like, you need to know where your numbers are at, and you have to be pulling profit out of there. Or you have to be pulling, I mean, you got kids to feed,
Still
so they
business.
need clothes. It's business, right? They need clothes on their back. And you can't just only feed them lettuce. I don't know. They probably eat a lot of lettuce, but you can't just feed kids only lettuce. They need a little protein or a little beef. Or
Yeah.
I got a beef on my shirt right now. But yeah, so it just goes all around. And so yeah, people need to realize that it's more intricate than just, growing year round. There's the things that the plants just functionally need to grow.
Yeah, precisely. And so, like I said, now we've been one of the things that we done when we narrowed down our focus to the romaine lettuce was perfect the craft of growing it in all 4 seasons. When we were doing 16 different types of crop, we were being successful in some crops during the summer and successful in some crops during the winter. There was no healthy, steady supply of anything. It was a mix mash, and it was too much to handle. And there's a lot of people that still criticize us for growing one crop. But like I said, you got to become good at something in particular. And the old saying is jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than a master of one. So we still want to perfect many different things, right? But right now we're narrowing our focus on romaine lettuce. The next crop is probably going to be strawberries, where we have some connections in British Columbia that are very successful at growing strawberries, and perhaps we can piggyback off of each other, which is what Canada needs. It needs east meets west, and we need to work together with our technologies and just start growing the crap out of the ground. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We just got to grow.
And I couldn't agree more. And that's why I'm doing the podcast too. And that's why I've got my coaching businesses, because I fully agree with you. We need more small farmers. We need more people like you taking initiative, realizing there's an issue with our big food system, and bringing it back down to local, which we've talked a lot about. And yeah, you can grow hydroponic strawberries and they're fantastic. They're nothing like you would get shipped up from, Mexico or California.
No. Yeah.
And the quality and the nutrient density and all of the above is just outstanding. So can we talk a little bit about the technical side? So, I'm seeing in the background. So I grew my lettuce in a big lettuce pond. It was about a foot deep, foot of water, and then I had styrofoam rafts that went on top, and that's how I grew my lettuce. But you have a little different operation there. So I see PVC pipes. So can you tell us some of the intricacies about how you've put your operation together?
So these are food grade PVC pipes that won't break down over time, and that were recommended by the supplier of the materials when we were sourcing our equipment. This is probably the most expensive part of the whole operation, aside from the greenhouse itself. But it's a very simple operation where we have a main tank, holds about 1,000 liters, but we only use 200 liters a week. Um, Off of the main tank, there is a 1 horsepower pump, which feeds the 1 inch line, which breaks down to a 3/4 inch line, down to spaghetti hoses. The spaghetti hoses feed the pipes. The pipes have a spacing of about 8 inches per hole for the plant's canopy to grow on top and for to allow the root systems to develop down the bottom. And on the end of the return line is actually a ease trough that is gravity fed back to the return line. So it's a system that recycles its water, recycles the fertilizer. The plants always get what they want. It never shuts off, runs 365 days a year. One of the key things that we are doing now this year in the next couple of weeks is we have a solar company coming to install solar panels, and it'll run the entire greenhouse off of solar. So our biggest expense here at the greenhouse is our utilities and our labor, of course, but we do a labor of love here. So our biggest expense is going to be basically wiped out, where we'll be feeding power back to the grid when we have a surplus and generating our own power. So like I said, and the other thing we have is the custom geothermal system, and the layout of the greenhouse itself is 100 by 24 feet, but we have it divided down the middle where we only have one side that's just the south side facing the sun, double polyplastic, where the entire north side is insulated and waterproof with steel roof and siding.
Love it. Yeah, it's more of a passive solar type greenhouse than a traditional. I had a gutter connect greenhouse, and so it was,
Mm-hmm.
but then in my hippie house, it was running east west, and then I took the south roof off. So same concept, absolutely. And that's the point that I want to make too with Dawn's Dirt, and with, and with you, is you don't have to think that you have to do this massive thing. You can just start off small. And,
Absolutely.
you've got a little greenhouse there, and you're growing, tons and tons of lettuce, and you're making a little business of it. And so it doesn't have to be this massive thing. I also want to touch on the fact that you are growing only lettuce. I think that's amazing. I started off and I grew cucumbers. That's how I was raised, was on long English cucumbers. That's the only thing my parents grew. And then they grew a few mini cucumbers, and then they always had a few tomatoes. But when we started our greenhouse, we did cucumbers, and then we branched into tomatoes, and then we branched into peppers. And then outside in the field crops, we started with, just the simple things: potatoes, carrots, onions, beets, lettuce, zucchini, things like that. And so we did the same thing. We started off with one crop, mastered it, and then moved on. And I've seen people who are in the homesteading realm right now, and they try and bite off too much. They try and get, the ducks and the chickens and the geese and the goats and the cows and the this and the that and all of it. And you're right, they are master, they're what, I forget what you said, master of nothing really,
Yeah.
because you got to start with one thing and do it well, perfect it, and then move on to the next thing. Because if you don't, you're just spread thin, and you're doing nothing well. So yeah.
We love the enthusiasm that comes with wanting to be a farmer and wanting to take up the lifestyle, but when it comes to life, you still have to make money. It's still a business. It's not an easy path to go down and think that you're just gonna live off the land and homestead. There's a lot of things required of that lifestyle, and you actually need a lot more money than you think. So it's not like I'm out of money, I'm just gonna go live off the land. No, that's the opposite. You need to make some money and then go live off the land, right? So what we're doing here is we're slowly making our way into that lifestyle versus going too far in. I mean, we do have 4 pigs, but that's it, right? We have romaine lettuce and we got our 4 pigs, and those pigs aren't for sale. Those are family pigs. We like our pigs. People like to come up and buy lettuce and see the pigs, right? But you have to remain vigilant to something in particular, right? So romaine lettuce is our thing. That's what we're sticking to, and that's what we've been known to do. And once you establish that, then people start knowing you for something. That's when business really starts to take off. Because if people know you for just being a farmer up in the field and you don't really have anything in particular, but we might go visit him on Tuesday because he might have potatoes or he might have carrots. That doesn't get you your business. That's not a good business strategy, right? So, as a father, you still have to be the main supporter of the family, which means you had to bring in the dough. So make sure
Yeah.
you have your business strategy figured out when it comes to starting a farm. There's no other easy way to do it.
For sure. And that you just hit the nail on the head, the business side. You have to know your business side in order to be a farmer, because that's what it is. Farming is, it's agriculture is
It's
business.
business.
It it's all, butterflies and rainbows to think that you can live off your land and things like that. But at the end of the day, how are you going to buy the things? How are you going to buy the boards to build the greenhouse? How are you going to buy the PVC pipe to put in more lettuce? Things like that. So you have to know your numbers in order to know how, like, what you can and cannot do and how you can expand and things like that. One thing that happened to me with my I called it my empire. I had a couple of grocery stores, or farm to table stores. Actually, they weren't grocery stores; they were farm to table stores. And I had my 36,000 square foot greenhouse, and I had my 20 acres of garden, and I did $1 million in sales in a year. But what happened was I ended up getting a divorce, which is kind of ugly and sad, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but it happens, and it was the right decision, and I bought my ex-husband out. But yeah, it's really tough. And eventually my debt load got so high, and it just didn't match, and it didn't pencil out and whatever, and I made the business decision to sell. And then here I am now teaching people how to do it, because I think that, even me, with my size that I was too big for the local farmers market, because I was going to farmers market, but I was competing against people that were buying and selling from the biggest warehouses in the province, which was a big problem. And then so I was too big for the farmers market, but I was too small for the wholesale market. And so yeah, I just ended up having to sell, and I'm starting off again. And this time around, so I was known as the tomato lady before. People call me the tomato lady. And this time around, I'm getting right back into farming again, because that's what I know how to do. And I've got chickens. I've got, 150 layers, and I've got some meat birds, and I'm getting back into it in chickens this time, and starting off small and biting my way back into the business. But it's all tic-tac-tician. It's all knowing my numbers. And same thing for you. It's knowing your numbers. What did the lettuce cost you? Yeah, it's so important that people know that, to bite off one thing, do it well, make a profit, and then move on to the next thing, or expand your first thing. Absolutely.
Precisely. Precisely. And one neat thing that we're doing at Papa's Farm too is we've always had a real passion to teach. So in the past couple of years, we do live webinars with school students, like K to 12. It really doesn't matter what teacher calls or what school, and we give them a tour of the greenhouse and we explain how it works. And then what we want to do is encourage youth to become farmers or encourage youth to make the right choice when they're picking their food and stuff. And so, one thing we also have here, this is Captain Romaine. Back in the day, growing up, my parents used to tell me if we wanted to be big and strong, we had to eat our vegetables like Popeye the Sailor. And it seems there's no more legendary icon preaching healthy eating anymore. And so we've come up with our own through Papa's Farm. His name is Captain Romaine, and his slogan is "Eat your veggies." Right. So
I
we've been working with a local digital creator to bring Captain Romaine to life, to start showing the kids that, you know, if you start eating healthy food, you can unlock your actual superpowers. You can become bright and intelligent again. You know, and like I said, step away from anxiety and depression because we can unlock the potential in your gut. And people don't recognize how important their gut plays with their brain, right? So, yeah, we have to teach the youth again that it's okay to be cool. And unfortunately for the junk food industry, we're coming for you. You got the biggest target on your back, and I'm the biggest enemy that you will ever see, because I'm using their tactics against them. I mean, we all know that some of those big brands think that when you need a break, you need to have a candy bar. Well, that's absolutely incorrect and it's wrong. And it's what they're teaching our kids, and we're allowing them to teach our kids these things. Well, we don't want to let that happen here anymore. We're going to bring in the new superheroes, the big dogs, and we're going to chase out the riffraff and make our kids healthy and strong again, so we don't have to make so many trips to the doctor. We don't want to, right? We don't want the pills anymore. We just want to be healthy, happy, strong human beings, right? Is it that it's that simple? But it's very hard to get to that point for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, again, you just give me goosebumps every time you talk. Like I could sit here and talk to you for hours because you were hitting the nail on the head. And with our quote unquote food system that we have in a grocery store, you look at it and it's not food; it's just filler. They might slap a health food sticker on the outside of a box, but if you look at the ingredient list, like it is not food. It's garbage. It's chemical. It's things that you can't pronounce and preservatives. And the unfortunate part is that people think that like that food is cheap. That food, I hate even calling it food. I hate calling it food. That filler is cheap, and it's inexpensive, where a little bit of like the beef and the milk and the
Yep.
your whole foods,
Eggs.
vegetables, they're a little bit more money, but really the nutrients and the things that you're getting and receiving from that food, real food, it outweighs the crap that's in the stores. It's just not food, and we need to change our system, and that's how we've gotten into this big global system. Now I've got a question as well. When COVID hit, now this might be a little politicky, and I don't know where y'all fall, but I'm just going to talk about it. During COVID, I was a farmer during COVID, and people who were unvaccinated, they were quite worried because they couldn't go to a movie theater and they couldn't go to restaurants and things like that, and so they were quite concerned that they couldn't get their food. So I had people coming to my booth in tears sometimes. "You have food, right?" And I'd say, "Yes, I have food. Like, don't worry about it. Like, come to my farm. I'll look after you." And so people were quite worried about the food system. And you look at 2020 as well, never mind where you fall politically. You look at our grocery system in 2020, we had in Canada the toilet paper wars. I don't know if you had them out east there, but we had the toilet paper wars. And the shelves were empty. And it just shows how fragile our big food system is. Yet your food system is not that fragile. You have lettuce. As long as you've got some lettuce seed and some fertilizer or nutrients to put in your water, and some heat to heat the greenhouse with, you've got, and the sunshine, which that's not going to go away. Like, that's nature. And so you've got food, and you've got local food. And so what's your thoughts on all of that, the local system, and just the fragility of our local system?
Well, it's funny you say that. Here in Newfoundland, where we import Newfoundland and Labrador, we import 90% of what we consume. And if the ferry would stop running in 2 weeks, we would have nothing. It would literally take our island 2 weeks to be desolate of food. That is unbelievable and totally unacceptable. When you look at global issues, and it might seem funny to bring up war over here in Canada, but I can tell you what would happen to us if something would occur globally? I mean, we never think about it. We really don't care about our military in Canada anymore like we should. I'm a retired military soldier as well. So as far as caring for our people, our system, the food system, anything, it just seems like there is a lack thereof. So yeah, when COVID hit, we noticed it here in Newfoundland. We noticed it big time because the trucks weren't allowed to get on the ferries. There was only a certain amount of trucks allowed on the ferries. There was only a certain amount of people and type of people who could eat, like you said, if they were unvaccinated. They weren't literally allowed in the grocery stores. So it became a very scary place to be, and the lack of food being produced was recognized. And the tariffs is another great example where politics plays a role in our food. I mean, come on, guys. Any great civilization that was ever built from the Stone Ages up was built around farming, agriculture. If you couldn't feed the people in the castle, they all died. Well, how come we're in 2025 and we can just say, well, we can buy it from somebody else? Well, when global things occur, these things they stop us from getting that food that was so readily available. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. And for it to be 2025 and for us to be self-reliant on other countries for our food as a civilization, we should be embarrassed. I mean, our ancestors are probably laughing at us, and some of them recognize the issues and some of them don't. Now, if it's organized chaos, well, good on whoever organized it. They're doing a great job. But I can tell you, it's unbelievable. It's unacceptable. And we've never stood for it here, and we won't stand for it. So we probably get a lot of heat for it.
No, you are hitting the nail on the head, and I think we have the same belief system for sure. I've been saying for a while too, like since 2020, he who controls the food controls the people. And I've been calling out our food system since, 10 years before that. I needed Canada Gap certification
Hmm.
to be able to sell in grocery stores. And it was a $7,000 touch to be able to sell $20,000 worth of produce into a couple grocery stores. And I said, this is stupid. This is crazy. Like, what is this bureaucracy is going to kill the small farmer? And it has. You've seen it over and over and over again. I eventually didn't end up in the local grocery stores because I couldn't. And he who controls the food controls the people, and that's where we're headed. But we're not talking doom and gloom here. Like, that's the positive side of it, is we need to just come up with a different system. We need to know our farmers. We need to shake the hands of the people that feed us. We need to grow more in our backyards. We need to do these things and do what we can. And really, I don't actually care about government. Like, do your thing, do your whatever. Like, you guys are nuts. And I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to look after my community. I'm going to look after my family. I'm going to look after my food system. And I'm responsible for that, not government, me.
That's
And
correct.
so
That's correct.
that's what I'm doing, right? And that's what you're doing, is you are taking first your family. So you're supporting your family with your food that you've got. You've got some pigs and you've got some lettuce, and I'm sure you might even have a little garden outside. But
Absolutely.
you're feeding your family and you're looking after your family. But because you're a strong, I'm just going to say it, because you're a strong man, you are also then opening your arms and taking in your community and helping others, and taking into, and I'm not a man, I'm a woman, but I'm very strong. And I had people saying, like, I'm worried, and I just said, don't worry, I've got you. And that's why it's unfortunate I had to sell my farm, but I just feel like I can now empower more people to
Yes.
do more things. And I actually coach small farmers too. I coach people like you to build the business, to make it bigger, to embrace your communities, to grow the lettuce, to grow all of it. I cannot sing your praises as a human being enough. And as I've, been on the call here for 48 minutes, I have so much respect for you and what you're doing. Hey friends, on Dawn's Dirt, we get real about growing food, farming, homesteading, living free, and digging into the stuff that actually matters. If you're loving the dirt we're dishing out, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite social media platforms. That's how we keep growing this community of badass, soil covered, chicken loving, freedom chasing humans. Like and subscribe to me on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. Come be part of the movement.
Thank you. And I will note too, you said that, I don't talk much about the government, but I will say there's 0% government funding happening over here at Papa's Farm. We don't want it. We don't need it. We don't want them over here taking pictures and poking their nose around in places where it don't belong. We know how to grow the food. You guys don't. It's very evident over the past 30 years of my life that our current government hasn't got a clue about agriculture. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a couple good organizations on my island that are government funded that know a little bit about agriculture, but I can guarantee you they're still not touching anything in regards to sustainability or even on the same level as what Papa's Farm is. So the government has no right to try and say that they help us. They don't. They don't provide any logistical solutions. They don't provide any funding to Papa's Farm. They've been here for a couple photo ops and they've told us straight up, we're just here for pictures. And I'm like, I know what you guys are doing, right? So it's a very funny game that we're all agreeing to play together all simultaneously. But there is a lot of people recognizing that it is a funny game, and it's starting to get really stinky all across Canada. So I guess the farmers are the ones who usually end up pulling rank first and letting people know that there's things wrong. You know, there's big things wrong, and if you guys want Bill Gates feeding you, you be my guest because he owns 49% of the farmland in the United States of America, and he's the one coming up with autonomous greenhouses. So if you don't want me in here growing your food and worrying about you let Bill Gates and Amazon build their autonomous greenhouses and grow your food. That's fine. I'll grow mine for
No.
my family.
Yeah, no, thank you. You know, when I sold my farm, my biggest fear, honestly, my biggest fear selling my farm is what will I feed my family? Because I went from feeding a community to what will I feed my family? And as I was looking for places in town to purchase and move to, I was thinking like I was looking at the backyard. How much garden can I grow and where can I hide my chickens? That's what I was honestly when I was looking at moving into town, that's what I was looking for is where can I hide my chickens and where can I grow the garden? Thankfully, I ended up in the country again, and so I've got gardens for my family, and I've got chickens, and I've got some goats, and I milk my goats, and it's pretty fun. But that's the thing is, the government and whoever they don't feed me or my family. I feed me and I feed my family, and then I buy my meat locally and I buy my things locally. I had a local farm to table store for many, many years. Like that's where we need to go. And with that, with community and with people, we the people, have the power to change our
Yes.
society. And so when we start making different decisions and when we start doing different things and doing our food system differently and doing local differently, local has become such a big buzzword in big grocery stores too, but that's not local. That's still big business. That's still big agriculture. That's still big, mass production, mass whatever. What really local is when you can shake the hand of the person that when you can go to Papa's farm and meet you and meet your little kids and meet your
Yeah.
wife and shake your hands and see the lettuce. That is what local is. Local isn't some big sign on a billboard
No.
in a big grocery store. That's not local. That's optics. And so yeah, we the
Yeah.
people have.
That's advertising and marketing at its best.
Right? Where the real thing is the person growing the food. That's where it's at. And farmers right across Canada, like that's what they want to do. And the small family farm, we need to protect them because if we don't, we're not going to have a farmer left. We're just going to have these massive, like you said, Bill Gates corporations. It's not cool. So, yeah. So
It's
any last
coming. We don't want to believe it, Don, but it is true. It is a thing. You can go and Google it.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so we're just almost to the top of the hour here. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. This has gone so fast, and I love what you're doing. Any last words of wisdom? Any last, lettuce tips and tricks? Anything you want to say? We could talk for hours, but just give us a few more tidbits as we close out here.
Yeah, I gotta get it going as well. So it has been great, but I will say, if there are people that need help and hydroponic support in Canada, I'm actually the founder and president of the Canadian Hydroponics Association as well. We have members from British Columbia right to Newfoundland and even in the Northwest Territories. So we provide discounts and we provide a networking opportunity for people to come and talk about hydroponics farmings and troubleshoot their issues with authentic hydroponic farmers, Canadian farmers dealing with Canadian situations, dealing with Canadian manufacturers, Canadian fertilizer companies, and distributing companies. So if you want to learn more about that, you can reach us at can-hydro.com. And when it comes to, if you want more one-on-one farmer support, I still offer my expertise to anybody who reaches out on Facebook or YouTube. That's where we provide lots of information and you can find us. But it's always my pleasure to be able to try and help advocate hydroponics stability in Canada and help Canadians be successful. That's one reason we created our YouTube page, was to demonstrate the abilities of hydroponics and explain to people how to do it and to build their own, whether they wanted to build their own or they wanted to buy a full turnkey system. There's options out there, and there's Canadian options at that, so it makes it really, really good. Um, but yeah, that's what I'll say, and I'll end it. Like I said, if anybody ever needs help or support, I'm glad to help people out. I'm glad to even talk about the business side of it and the marketing side of it. Like I said, we're branding our product in a way that speaks, that represents the junk food industry. So if you guys want information or ideas on how to get your product out there and get to the people, just look at the TV for an hour or two and study the ads and start recreating your own content, your own information to start. Advertising. I've heard one time in business, if you don't invest at least 70% into advertising, you're not investing anything at all, right? So people got to know who you are, know what you're doing, even if you are a small mom and pop farm or just doing one thing. That's actually a good thing, right? So, and the reason for our YouTube page and our Facebook page also is to bring some positivity and happiness to people and joy, and like recognize that farming is not always an easy task. We spend a large amount of hours here in the greenhouse working on the crop and the system, and I'm actually building a house now as we speak. I'll go out after this and do that and come back and do some more lettuce. But we got to remain positivity, because you're not only you're not just what you eat, but you are what you think. So if we go around in this world doom and gloom, that's what we're going to be given every day when we wake up, is doom and gloom. But if you go to bed in the evening with a good plan on how you're going to attack the next day, a positive outlook, and you don't let nothing bring you down, treat everything as an opportunity to learn, right? That's what we're doing a lot less of these days, is we're too overwhelmed with what's going on. So just take a step back and smell the lettuce, and get your fingers dirty, whether it's in the soil or in the hydroponic system. Like plants are the most therapeutic thing in the world, and maybe that's why I'm such a positive, happy guy, is because I'm around plants all day long. So maybe that's what the rest of the world needs too, is to get back into that atmosphere where oxygen is being created.
Yeah, I love it. I love what you're doing. I love your farm. I love your family. I love your lettuce, and I haven't even tried it because I'm in Alberta, but yeah, I love it. And thanks so much for taking the time from your farming and being on the show today. Really appreciate it. And people, if you're in Newfoundland, Labrador, go find Papa's lettuce and follow them. Even if you're not there, go follow them on YouTube and Facebook and figure out and find out. And yeah, that's what Don's Dirt is about, is connecting people to their food. And so thank you so much for your time today and being on the show. And yeah, I want nothing but the lettuce, the best for you. So yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Don, for having me. It's always a privilege to talk about food security and like what we're doing here at Papa's Farm and produce. I just wish the best for all your viewers and yourself. And we look forward to talking again in the future. Maybe we'll be in a different greenhouse at that time with some more romaine lettuce.
I love it. I love it. Let's keep in touch. Let's keep in touch. I'm gonna make sure I see you on your social media. So cool.